It wasn't like I went looking for trouble. Honestly, I was just bored. James and I had been married for 8 years, and somewhere along the way, the excitement had faded. Life had become predictable. Work, dinner, Netflix, sleep, repeat. James was a good man, but he was distant. We hardly talked unless it was about bills or schedules. I missed feeling wanted. I missed feeling seen. I convinced myself I needed a hobby, something to break the cycle. That's when I joined the gym. I told James I wanted to get healthier, but deep down, I just wanted to feel like me again, not just someone's wife. When I walked into the gym that first day, I had no idea that my life was about to change. Liam wasn't what I expected in a trainer. Sure, he was fit, tall, toned, and confident, but it was the way he made me feel that caught me off guard. "You've got strong legs," he said during my first session, his eyes holding mine a little too long. "You'll be killing those squats in no time." I laughed it off, pretending not to notice the way my stomach flipped. At first, everything felt harmless. Liam was just good at his job, encouraging, patient, and easy to talk to. We'd joke during workouts, and he'd tell me stories about his weekend plans or funny moments from his life. For the first time in years, I felt interesting again. Then, it started to shift. "You're stronger than you think," he told me one evening after I'd pushed myself through a brutal set of lunges. His hand lingered on my back a little too long. When I turned around, he was still looking at me. Not like a trainer, but like a man. I should have stopped going right then. The rain was pouring when my next session ended, and I didn't have an umbrella. Liam insisted on giving me a ride home. "It's no trouble," he said with that easy smile of his. The air felt heavier than usual inside his car. I couldn't stop thinking about how his cologne filled the space. When we reached my house, I should have said goodbye and gotten out, but I didn't. Instead, I sat there fumbling with my bag. "You okay?" he asked. I don't know why I said yes. I wasn't okay. I felt trapped. By my life, my marriage, by the dull ache of feeling invisible. "You know," he said softly, "if you ever need to talk, I'm here." He reached over and touched my hand, just for a second, but it felt like my whole body caught fire. The next thing I knew, I was kissing him, and I didn't stop. The first time, I told myself it was a mistake, a lapse in judgment that I'd never let happen again. But mistakes are easy to repeat when they make you feel alive. Soon, I was spending more time at the gym than I needed to. I'd take extra classes or linger longer just to be with Liam. We started texting late at night. I'd lie to James about staying late at work or running errands just to slip away for a few stolen hours. The excitement swallowed me whole, and I let it. But I knew it wouldn't last. Secrets always have a way of coming out. I wish I could say I felt guilty right away, that I came home after that first kiss and confessed everything. But the truth is, I didn't. Instead, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Wanted, alive, desirable. For days after that kiss, I kept reliving it. The way Liam's hand slid down my waist, the way his breath felt warm against my skin, the way my heart pounded so hard I thought it might burst. And every time James kissed me after that, those quick, half-hearted kisses before work or bedtime, all I could think about was Liam. I should have stopped. But I didn't. Our next session at the gym felt like a game of chicken. We both knew what we'd done, but neither of us said anything. Instead, Liam kept things professional, barking out instructions, counting my reps, and acting like nothing had happened. But when the session ended, as I reached for my bag, Liam grabbed my wrist. "Wait," he said quietly. I froze. "I can't stop thinking about you," he whispered. I don't remember walking out of the gym with him that night. I just remember the way my heart raced as I followed him to his car, how my mind screamed, "Don't do this," while my body ignored it. We ended up at his apartment. I barely remember what we said. It was messy, reckless, and over too quickly. But afterward, as I lay beside him tangled in sheets, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. But peace doesn't last when you build it on lies. Soon, I was spending more time away from home. I told James I'd picked up extra evening classes at the gym. He believed me. Of course he did. He trusted me. But the lying became easier than I expected. I'd slip out of bed to text Liam late at night. I'd delete messages the moment I read them, clearing my call logs just to be safe. And Liam was intoxicating. He knew exactly what to say, how to make me feel like I was the most incredible woman he'd ever met. It wasn't just about sex. It was the way he listened, the way he noticed things about me James never did. "You always tuck your hair behind your ear when you're nervous," Liam said once, smiling as he brushed it back for me. James didn't notice things like that anymore. Maybe he never did. But no matter how thrilling it felt, guilt started to seep in. I'd come home from Liam's place and find James asleep on the couch, his laptop open on his chest. I'd kiss his forehead, feeling like a monster. One night, I caught him staring at me during dinner. "You okay?" he asked. "Yeah," I lied. "Just tired." "You've been tired a lot lately," he said, frowning. "Are you sure everything's okay?" I nodded too quickly, avoiding his eyes. I should have stopped. I should have taken that moment to pull myself out of the mess I'd made, but I didn't. Instead, I kept chasing the thrill, that electric high that came with sneaking around. The stolen moments, the hushed phone calls, the way Liam's touch made me forget about everything else. The first time James almost caught me was on a Saturday afternoon. I told him I was heading to a yoga class, but I was really meeting Liam at his apartment. We'd barely stepped inside when my phone rang. It was James. "I'll call him later," I said, tossing my phone aside. But something didn't sit right. After a few minutes, curiosity got the better of me. I checked my phone, 7 missed calls. My stomach dropped. I called him back. "Where are you?" James asked. His voice was tight. "I went to the gym to surprise you. They said there's no yoga class today." I stammered, trying to piece together a believable lie, but my mind was spinning too fast. "You know what?" James said, his voice cold now. "Just come home." I knew I couldn't keep lying forever. Something was going to give. And soon. The day everything crumbled wasn't some dramatic showdown. It was just quiet. James had been distant for days, barely speaking, barely looking at me. Then one night, I came home to find him sitting at the table, my phone in his hand. "I saw the messages," he said. My chest tightened. "What messages?" I asked, my voice trembling. "Don't," he cut me off. "Just don't." I don't know how long we sat there, staring at each other in silence. Eventually, I started to speak, but the words stuck in my throat. I didn't know how to explain what I'd done. I didn't even know how to explain it to myself. "Is there someone else?" James finally asked. I couldn't answer. The silence told him everything he needed to know. You know how people say there's a moment in life when time just stops? That night at the kitchen table, when James asked me if there was someone else, I felt it. The air felt heavier, like the whole house was holding its breath. "Is there someone else?" he asked again. I couldn't answer. My throat locked up. I wanted to say no. I wanted to tell him this was all a misunderstanding, that I loved him, that I was sorry, that it hadn't meant anything. But I knew none of that was true. "I'm so sorry," I whispered. And that's when his face changed. His eyes, those eyes that had once looked at me with warmth and trust, just emptied. How long? His voice was flat. James? How long? He repeated. I told him everything. I don't know why. Maybe I thought honesty would make it easier, like confessing would somehow fix things. It didn't. Every word I said seemed to harden him more. I swear it's over, I pleaded. It was stupid. I was stupid. He didn't yell. He didn't cry. He just sat there, his jaw tight, nodding like he was filing away each detail in his mind. Finally, he stood up. I need some air, he muttered, and then he left. James didn't come home that night, or the next. When he finally walked back in 2 days later, I could tell something in him had changed. He wasn't angry, not in the way I expected. He was just cold. We need to talk, he said. His voice had no emotion, no warmth, no pain, just emptiness. I don't know if I can do this, he said, staring at the floor. I don't know if I want to. I'll fix this, I begged. I'll do anything. Therapy, counseling, whatever you need. He shook his head. You think this is about what I need? His voice cracked then, just for a second. You broke us. And that's when I realized that my biggest mistake wasn't just sleeping with Liam, it was every moment before and after. Every lie, every excuse. Every time I let myself believe I wasn't hurting anyone. I had been feeding the fire for months, and now I was standing in the ashes. I tried to text Liam once. I don't even know why. Maybe part of me wanted to believe that I hadn't ruined everything for nothing. That there was something real between us. But the number was disconnected. I asked about him at the gym, but no one seemed to know much about him. One of the receptionists mentioned he'd taken a sudden leave of absence. Just like that, he was gone. That's the thing about people like Liam. They know how to disappear when things get messy. He had nothing to lose, no life to unravel. Meanwhile, I was left trying to salvage what was left of mine. I wish I could tell you that James and I worked things out, that we hugged it out, went to therapy, and found our way back to each other. But life isn't that neat. We tried counseling, but James was never fully present. I could see the way his mind drifted every time I spoke. He'd listen, nod, and say the right things. But he didn't feel anything anymore. He didn't trust me, and honestly, I didn't blame him. One night, he packed a bag. I didn't try to stop him. I just need time, he said. I knew what that meant. Some mistakes stay with you, no matter how much you try to move on. Even now, months later, I still think about the moments I ignored, the times I could have chosen my marriage instead of chasing the excitement of something new. James and I still talk sometimes. He's polite but distant. I don't know if he'll ever forgive me. I don't know if I deserve it. And Liam, he's just a memory now. A bad decision that felt good in the moment, but left me empty in the end. If you're still listening, I want you to know something. Temptation is easy to give into, but the damage it causes, that lasts far longer than the thrill ever will. I thought I was chasing excitement, but all I really did was run away from the life I had. A life I should have fought harder to protect.